Hey folks, it's me once again, and I just wanted to show you a quick little thing for the intro of this video. Well, as you can see by the title, this is going to be relating to 2019's Rockin' Shock in Worcester, Massachusetts. And since one of the major icons of horror has sadly passed recently, I decided as a little gift for some of my friends who were associated with him, I decided to get some sympathy cards. Yeah, I got my friends Joe and Sarah. Then Bill for Bill Mosley. Adam Green. For Ken Forey, who I'm going to be meeting for the first time ever. And then a mutual friend, even though I've only met him very briefly, once or twice, Steve Uncle Creepy Barton. Yeah, hopefully Joe can give that to him for me, but we'll find out soon, and I'll let you know in the recap video portion. And you'll most likely be seeing me in the hotel room giving little input or insights to you guys on how the days have gone. But of course, most of it will probably take place around here, the usual setting, and see you guys in a bit. Later. Hey folks, it's me once again, and I am here to talk about my experience at 2019's Rockin' Shock. And let me start off by saying that this convention and this video will be dedicated to two people. One being Sid Haig, and the other from my personal life, who I'll get to in a bit. Yeah, to start this off, I'm actually going to read from this little flyer talking about Sid Haig. But first, let me get my reading glasses. Alright, let's go. If anyone exemplified the term larger than life, it was Sid Haig. He had such a presence both in life and on screen. In film and television, he was magnetic. In roles large or small, foreground or background, you were drawn to him, even if he had no dialogue. In person, one look in his eyes, and you knew where you stood. There was nothing fake about him. Sid gave you complete honesty, did not have an ego, and absolutely loved his fans. Which he did. Look at that episode of Horrified and on Ari Scope's YouTube page and see what I mean. Okay, where did I leave off? Okay. He was proud of his work, but he gave his fans credit for their support, because that support kept him working, and he was so funny in throwing out lines in his matter-of-fact delivery that would keep an audience, be it one person in conversation or a whole room in a Q&A panel, cracking up for hours. For us, Sid was one of the people that put us on the map. He validated us in the early days when we were trying to build a fan base and grow as a show, and we are as thankful to him now as we were then. And as the convention world grew into a business and autograph prices soared, Sid kept his the same. His policy in 2019 was his policy back in 2005, because he put the fans first. That's a good man. You all meant the world to him, and I hope you know that. And because of who he was as a person, as well as the incredible body of work he left, we dedicate Rock and Shock 2019 to Sid Haig. Thank you, Sid. We love you. Photo by Jeremy Saffer. That one right there. Boy, was that touching. So where do I begin? I kind of feel I should get this part out of the way. And I said that the other person that I'd dedicate this video to was someone from my personal life. And that person from my personal life is a young man named Mikey Williams, who dated my sister for the past few years. On our way to the convention, my parents and I decided to give him a little call to let him know that if he wanted to, he could stop by and help take care of our dog or do anything just to like anything to keep him occupied until Megan came home from work or something. And he answered in his typical "hello, is there anything I could do for you" kind of manner. But the road that we were calling on is not the best road. And he hung up. And then we tried again a little while later, and there wasn't a response. We just thought it might have been just bad cell reception or something. And then like an hour and a half later, we were fairly close to the hotel where we were going to be staying at near the DCU Center when we got a phone call from my older sister saying that Mikey had suddenly died. I know this is probably too personal for you guys watching, but you'll understand more as to why I mention this as the video goes along. And my dad volunteered to go back home to help with my sister, Megan. And Mom and I decided to continue forward because even if I thought of canceling, which I did for a moment, I knew I'd still get charged for one night. And it's just like, what's the point? Sadly, when you think about it. Yeah, it was very tough, but we were able to talk to the hotel staff and they let us do the one-nighter because we really just felt it wasn't right to just try to go for the whole weekend. And also I needed the distraction because I don't want to be too much down in the dumps. But yeah, one of the first things I did when I went to the show last night was walk off to see one of the first guests that I've been looking forward to seeing for quite a few years, and especially since he was first announced. And that first person I saw was Edwin Neal from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And as most people who've met him know, He is a very funny guy, does a lot of different voices. Some of you may not know this, but he is a anime voice actor. He's done voices in various commercials and things, so we've most likely seen stuff with him and not even might not have even known it was him. Yeah, one of my favorite things that he said to me was, because it took a little while for me to figure out which picture I wanted, he said on here, "Hey Corey, Ed, Neil, Hitchhiker." He was like, "Isn't that just weird how the picture happened to be taken like this? That spot with the window there. It's like, did they like somehow know that I'd be signing pictures like this over 40 years later? Did they?" Yeah. Yeah, I've heard people joke like that before with other pictures, but in this case I actually thought it was funny. It's all about the delivery. That's the major thing that I always say. It's all about the delivery. And next, second, let me try to wipe some of this off, was a guy that I also met for the first time, Ken Foree, from the original Dawn of the Dead, Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween, and the movie Devil's Rejects, Kenan and Kel, Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, so many other things. And it was tough to figure out which one to go with, but I felt this would be the best because Dawn of the Dead was kind of what helped put him on the map. And in case you couldn't see it, it says, "To Corey, I've got your back, Ken Foree." Yeah, I showed him, just like I did last year to Scott Reiniger, the picture, or two pictures I took with George Romero back in 2013. You guys probably have already seen those before, but in case you didn't, because I don't remember if I put it in last year's Rock and Shock or some other video. I'll be right back. Should just be a moment. Sorry about that. Alright. I even labeled it as Romero. I said to Ken, you could tell I was a little overly excited here. And he was like, "Yeah, you're a very hyper looking kid then." And then a more professional one. A lot of fun. I should probably also mention too, Ken is one out of five people that I got sympathy cards for. Yeah, because I knew certain people there were, of course, close with Sid Haig because of movies that they put together. Yeah, I gave Ken his, and I don't remember the exact wordings I wrote for all of them, but I did end like each of them though with saying I'm gonna keep you guys in my thoughts and prayers. But in the case of Ken Foree, I wrote, I will keep you in my thoughts and prayers, motherfucker. But he got a kick out of it though. Yeah, I told him I needed to put a little humor in that card because especially with writing out some of the other cards for people, I just felt they were too depressing. But I'm glad that he got a kick out of that. Definitely, I think it's better than what I was originally going to write. And I did say in the beginning part of the letter, I know we've never met before. So that's the main reason why I didn't put it in there. But I was going to put that line from Devil's Rejects. And kids, please skip to this part on the bottom of the screen if you don't want to hear the following words. I was going to write the line that Sid Haig said to Ken Forey from Devil's Rejects, where he called him crazy pig fucking dumbass pussy piece of shit. And he said to me, it would have been fine if you wrote that. But I'd still try to make good impressions though on people. But yeah, him, Adam Green, Joe Netter, and Sarah French. I also gave them a card to give to Steve Uncle Creepy Barton. And then I gave one to Bill Moseley. Yeah, Ken was the only one to open the card up in front of me, which is fine. Then Bill, I could tell, was trying to hold it together when I gave it to him, and he gave me some really nice words saying about how, because I was like, well, House of a Thousand Corpses, I know you only did this one little scene where you like popped out of the back seat of his car, and you mainly got to know him on Devil's Rejects, right? And he was like, well, House of a Thousand Corpses took a few years to come out. We shot that in 2000 and it didn't come out until 2003. So Sid and I mainly got to know each other through conventions. And I was like, okay, that makes it an even better story, I think. And definitely looking from his point of view, even more sad with the whole thing of Sid passing away. But yeah, and at least Sid is no longer suffering. That's the main thing I gotta keep reminding myself about, even though it's hard to think about it. And also, in a little bit, you will see a present that I got for one of my friends from Bill Moseley. But here's the next autograph. It's from John Dugan, Grandpa from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To Corey, it's hammer time. John Dugan, Grandpa. Yeah, both John Dugan and Ed Neal I've been friends with on Facebook for a long time. And back when they were first announced... Okay. Back when they were first announced, I immediately messaged them saying, like, how much do you guys charge so I can know how much to bring with me for the convention. And it was $25 for Ed Neal and $30 for John Dugan, but you also got to take a picture with him for free if you got something from John. Well, same with Ed. And actually, there was something else I forgot now that I think about it. I got a go off camera again. Sorry. So, I did buy this from Ed Neal because I just thought it was too cool looking to pass over. I'm sorry, this random thing he said in one interview just cracked me up. Yeah, like I remembered on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Dark Skies DVD, I'm pretty sure it's on the newer Blu-ray as well. This thing that he said about like I'm sorry. I know it may not come off as that funny to you when I say it, but just watch the actual thing for yourself. Yeah, it was like saying something in an interview about how like whenever he'd get a new contract for a voice acting gig, he'd call his second or fourth grade teacher being like, "Mrs. So-and-so, I got a new $10,000 contract." "Stop calling! I've changed it number 5 times!" It's much funnier if you actually see the thing. And I probably just completely slaughtered that old lady imitation. I'm sorry, Ed. And he advertised it as that it should not shrink, no matter how many times you wash it, but I'm still hesitant. "I got this knife. It's a good knife." Yeah, that was really cool. I had to get it. And let's see what's next. He also went up to see Adam Green again for the first time in quite a few years. He recognized me from before, which was nice. I told him a little bit of the... If you guys on this YouTube channel have seen, I did a video called Rest in Peace, Dear Molly. I told him a little bit about my story with that and what I went through. Yeah, he was very, very nice about it. I told him what he went through with Dave Brocky, Wes Craven, and various other personal things. The things he went through with that kind of reminded me of what I went through personally with Molly's passing. But here is... Wait, I should probably show you the cover first. I Survivor, which you probably know was the book on display in Victor Crowley, aka Hatchet 4. And I bought this from Joe Netter last year. Yeah, so Adam's signature is up here. Corey, keep surviving. I asked him about some things like Horrified and some other shows, and he said that things like Horrified and Scary Sleepover, it's just all about the scheduling. And that's why he hasn't done too many recently, which is sad to see because I really enjoy those. And Holliston, he still just hasn't found a network to take it in yet, which is still very sad. I need to stop clinging to the past with things like that. But I can't help it. And I did buy a couple things from Joe Netter and Sarah French as well. Yeah, this was a book that I swear he said was out of print for a little while, but thankfully it's back in print. And YouTube, please do not demonetize me for this. Zombie Bukkake. And for the sake of not being demonetized, you just look up what that word is if you really want to know what it is, because I can't say it on here. And then before I headed out, I got this, a little poster of Hanukkah, which was officially Sid Haig's last movie. Not Three from Hell, this movie. Yeah, To Corey, Love Sarah French. To Corey, what was it? Obadiah, Joe Netter. So that's the character I believe that he plays. I'll definitely check this one out soon. I've been waiting years for a Hanukkah horror movie. Funny enough, I was actually trying to write a Hanukkah horror movie script, but a little too controversial with some of the people when I described the plot. But from the way the plot to this was described to me, it's nothing like the one I thought of. I'm still probably going to can mine, though, if I can't really come to any certain settlements on it. Like if I can't progress it in a certain direction. Because the kernel of the idea is there, but not the full story. Probably the biggest celebrity guest there was, and for right now I only have this as a physical copy, Bruce Campbell from the Evil Dead trilogy, Burn Notice, Bubba Hotep, among many others. A lot friendlier than I expected, because I've heard stories in the past, to put it lightly. But yeah, I'm glad that I was able to keep my smile down to a minimal. And I also saw a couple other people, like saw Derek Mears, which was, it's always a pleasure seeing him. He's another guy who really loves his fans. Like, he takes pictures with people for free, even if you're not getting something. It's how much he loves us. Yeah, I finally got to ask him about Jared Padalecki, and I could tell he really loved him. Loved working with him on Friday the 13th. But honestly, I've heard nothing but good things about Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles. Fingers crossed I see them one day. Let's see. What should I... Oh, I'll just do this next. I have gotten a lot of things from this guy in the past. Not necessarily just for myself, but for some friends too. And the nice thing about this guy is that whenever you get something from him, he always puts it in a goodie bag. Shop till you chop at choptopsbarbecue.com. You probably know who this is. And the lucky friend is my friend Alora. To Alora, mark it up. Bill Moseley as Luigi. I'll give it to you in this bag. The funny thing is, I still have the goodie bag that he put one of his albums in for me. Never thought I'd be so sentimental to the point where I'd want to keep a goodie bag. But it's cool. Keep your smile and costume bright. Use reflective tape on your costume. Wear a light-colored costume. Stay in well-lit areas. Try makeup instead of a mask, which is what it says right here. And brush your teeth and keep your smile bright. I didn't even really look at what the other bag said. Happy Halloween. Watch for cars. Have your parents check your treats. Stay in well-lighted areas. Don't go out alone. Beware of ghosts. Such a generous guy. Then, it's a little gift that my mom picked out too at the show. Every 27 years, it's and then a couple other little things that I bought. And I could have gotten this a little cheaper online, like $12 or so less, but just had to get this when I saw it and not risk ordering it and that being in a jiggly state. Maximum Overdrive, the Vestron Collector's Blu-ray. I really enjoy this movie, not as much as Rambo for Life, but I do agree it's a fun roller coaster ride of a time. And I don't believe in the word cheesy. I'll say that it's goofy, but that's kind of what the movie is supposed to be. It's self-aware for the most part, but thankfully it's not Sharknado self-aware. And let's see. I swear there was something. Oh, it was on my lap. And Kane Hodder, To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story. I won this as a prize in a trivia contest for... I gotta look at the pamphlet so I can get the right name. Why do I keep putting these down? Okay. The Dorkening, a live podcast. Members of That Strange Show. Three Guys, That Horror. Throwdown Thursday. And Black and White Fright. I think that's them. Yeah, that was them. They were doing some trivia stuff, and they did different categories, but I was waiting since they mentioned Kane Hodder. I was waiting for the trivia question relating to him. And some of the things they mentioned, I honestly didn't know about, like what he was studying in college, because I haven't seen this documentary yet. I wanted to see it for a while, but just didn't get to buy it because at the time it was a little too pricey online. I wanted it to drop by $5 or $10. But winning it was really awesome. So, as you saw, Kane Hodder signed there. Then I asked Adam Green to sign it since he appears in the documentary. And Adam Green, as most people know, signs things for free because he loves you. You as in the fans. And then, I thought this was very sweet, the guy who wrote his biography, Michael, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Aloisi? But his signature is there. I mean, it's spelled Aloisi, but I really don't know how to pronounce that, and I don't want to attempt again because I feel like I'm just murdering your name. But, yeah. I'll watch this and give you feedback as quick as I can, Michael, and I'll try to finish that book. Just gotta try to become more of a reader. That's the main thing I gotta do. Not just for his sake, but for the film historians of Lon Chaney Jr.'s sake, Christopher G., who's a Peter Cushing historian's sake, because I gotta finish his book in all sincerity, Peter Cushing, and then for Joe Netter, and a little bit with this one, Adam Green's sake, and Amy Schumer's sake, with the girl with the lower back tattoo. So I have a lot of books to read, as you can tell, but I also have a bunch of movies, as you can see, to watch as well. So hopefully I can balance that out soon. And I hope you guys enjoyed this convention recollection. And, oh yeah, I gotta mention one more person. The guy I haven't seen in a while named Mike Perez, who represents some celebrity clients. But I mainly know him best as a producer on some documentary films, like Still Screaming, the Ultimate Scream Retrospective. I think that's the specific one, or Scream the Inside Story. I know it's one of those. And Never Sleep Again, the Elm Street Legacy. More Brains, the Return of the Living Dead documentary. And Crystal Lake Memories, Friday the 13th documentary. Yeah, he is also involved with RoboDoc, the creation of RoboCop, and Pennywise, the story of it, which those will hopefully be coming out sometime late this year or early next year. And then he's also helped out on various other projects, but ones that I am technically not allowed to share. Not that he told me to keep it a secret, but still, I don't want to jinx anything. But I will also say that he did share some behind-the-scenes stories with me on the Never Sleep Again and Crystal Lake Memories, like with Crispin Glover on Crystal Lake Memories. All he had to say, and all what most people have to say about Crispin Glover now that I think about it, is he's just crazy and a nut job. And he did tell me that Johnny Depp was filming Alice in Wonderland, and that's why he didn't do the interview for Never Sleep Again. And Patricia Arquette, he and some people actually went down to the set for Medium. But sadly, they fell behind on filming, so she had to like really get deep into working on that, and sadly couldn't give or share her memories on Nightmare on Elm Street 3, which is sad because they do talk a bit about her on the documentary, but of course they also interviewed Tuesday Knight, who I love. She's an absolute sweetheart. And I thought she definitely did a serviceable enough job. I mean, she's definitely better than anyone in the cast of the Elm Street remake, even though Katie Cassidy was really great in the role that she played in that. But, yeah, that's it for the for this convention recap. But in case you guys are curious, some of the other people that were on the guest list, yeah, a lot of them were last minute additions. Like, I don't think they had this guy in here, but the kid that gets sucked into the water by the shark in Jaws, he was there. Like, very last minute addition. He and one other person who you'll see in here, Dave Sheridan, was added just to fill in for certain people. But Dave Sheridan, that guy's awesome. He's a chameleon. I remember seeing him at another show where he played his character of Doofy in Scary Movie. Very much in character. Like, he knocked over a big glass thing off a bar table. Didn't faze him. As you can see, Bruce Campbell, Ray Wise, who I saw a little glimpse of. Same with Sherilyn Fenn, Bill Moseley and Derek Mears, Adam Green and Dave Sheridan, Kane Hodder and Adrian King, Ken Forey and Felissa Rose. Then, what was it? Catherine Connie and Ed O'Neill. And then you got the Evil Dead girls. And then you got like John Dugan, Sarah French. Yeah, Eric Davari, I think, is the one next to John Dugan. Bill Johnson, who's pretty cool, who I met a while back. Joe Netter and Dan Yeager, who I also met a while back and was pretty chill. Yeah, I wish I got to spend more time at this show, and I wish there were more, well, not more, because I didn't film any at all, but I wish I got to film the panels, but due to the family emergency, I just felt it was appropriate that we just leave when we did. Yeah, but the good thing is, I had a good time. I was able to escape from real life for a little while. I had my fix, and hopefully I can have a better personal experience, or a more better personal experience next time. And thank you guys for watching. Take care, and see you around. Later. Hey everybody. Yeah, I just felt I should add this in since right after recording the earlier portion that you just watched, I decided to watch this, my prize. And I have to admit, I was very happy with what I watched. It was just like everyone said to me it would be. It was emotional. And I remember hearing a couple of the stories because I read some of his book. I even told a couple people about how one of my biggest fears is when I get married, or if I ever get married, but I prefer to say when. Yeah, one of my biggest fears is if I will not be allowed to talk to certain friends of mine anymore. Because I remembered reading in the Kane Hodder book, which I do plan on getting back to one of these days, don't worry. Or as long as I continue to live, I promise I'll get to it. Like, just that part with Kane talking about a certain friend of his from school or something. Like, as soon as the guy got married, his wife was like, I don't want you hanging out with Kane anymore. It's just, yeah, because I have certain friends that I can't picture my life without. So, like, it would be tough for me, especially with someone with autism, like, and not dealing with change very well. I mean, I know no one likes change, but someone with autism, change is really, really severe. But the things I really liked in this were not just the stories of like him being able to go to the proper clinic and finding competent doctors, but I really loved hearing about him meeting Adam Green and getting involved with Jason and how much he enjoyed playing that character. Like Adam Marcus said in an interview, Kane Hodder treats Jason with the respect that Robert De Niro gives to a character. And I have to completely agree with that. And that Freddy vs. Jason thing, like, ever since I first heard that story, I just felt terrible. Really'd have. And I told some people, like coworkers of mine over the years, the story, and thankfully they were understandable. Yeah, because they could tell by the way I described it to them that Jason was a character that Kane loves. And the fact that it was pretty much taken away from him just, yeah, I can understand how much something like that would hurt. And especially with playing the same character, not only multiple times, but multiple times consecutively. That, yeah, makes it more painful. And also, I am looking at in here some of the bonus stuff, like some of the deleted portions of interviews, and it was funny to hear about some of the pranks he did, like the dump spray, which honestly I didn't even know that was a thing. Heard of poopery, but never heard of something that actually makes the smell of fecal matter. Yeah. Probably be a good prank to play on some of my little cousins. But yeah, I may need to have some more time to really process this documentary, but I really enjoyed it. I liked that it was about his personal life story and not just about his career in the movies. I'm glad that his experience working with Charlize Theron helped him out. And she's great in that movie. I still can't believe the things she did to get into that role. It's definitely a very brave woman. As I know way too many women that are worried about their vanity, and glad that Charlize was able to throw that out the window and playing this character. It's true dedication. It's just like with people like Christian Bale or Heath Ledger or the girls from Cabin Fever. And Gary Oldman, if I didn't mention him, with gaining weight or losing weight or willing to play someone repulsive looking, that kind of deal. But with the whole convention thing, I really enjoy seeing documentaries that show footage from conventions, and I definitely think this is one of the best ones. Sorry I keep holding it, it's just a weird habit. Yeah, but I remember when I first saw footage from a convention, it was in Halloween 25 Years of Terror. And I just remember seeing seeing the footage and being like, you can actually meet some of these people? You really can? And it was pretty much just a pipe dream that I had for, I don't know, maybe like 4 years, but it feels like more. Because I really started getting into the horror movies when I was in 7th, 8th grade. Because that's when I started seeing a lot of things on regular TV. Because as some people know, I was raised in a very strict Mormon household. So I feel that me not being allowed to watch those kinds of things kind of caused me to lightly rebel. By a certain point, like as soon as I turned 17, I bought every R-rated movie that I could. And have enjoyed every single one of them, or just about every single one of them. And don't regret it. Yeah, I was even talking to one guy at Rock and Shock and saying how it was tough growing up as an autistic teenager, or as I worded it to him, someone on the spectrum. And he said to me that he was also on the spectrum. And I'm not going to say his name for personal reasons, just in case he doesn't want it out there. It's his story to tell. Just it's like what I say with anyone, not just with that, but with anything. But the main thing about with the conventions that I wanted to say, other than me enjoying seeing footage of them in documentaries, was that conventions, and I think this is going to be a good way to help wrap up this Rock and Shock 2019 Recollection video for my series of convention memoirs. Conventions, whether it be horror-themed conventions, or Comic-Cons, or anime shows. I'm not an anime fanatic, but I like some anime, like the ones I've seen. You're in this very friendly environment. You're surrounded by all these other fellow fans. Like, I've been able to talk to countless people. Like, I've known them for 10 years or more. Like, I could talk to certain people like they were childhood friends of mine. And it's no problem. It's a lot of fun. Like, at one anime convention, I met a bunch of transvestites, and whenever I see a transvestite, it makes me think of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I told them about meeting Tim Curry, and thankfully they knew who I was talking about. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if some of these people were actually among the millions of people that Tim Curry's performance as Frankenfurter helped inspire them to come out and do that. but they reacted very positively when I mentioned that I met Tim Curry, and then saying like how, for me, it was a dream come true to meet him because like he was on my wish list ever since I was a little kid. And also too, like I see people very comfortable in their skin when they're as their favorite characters, whether it be Michael Myers or Jason or Freddy Krueger or the few Ashes that I saw, and lately especially little kids dressing up as Pennywise. Yeah, never thought you could really make something so scary looking be so adorable looking at the same time. Yeah, if I ever have little kids, I'll try to get them dressed up as like a little Chucky or a little Herbert West from Reanimator or something. But yeah, like I feel like I can be myself at these shows. I'm a very loose, lightly spontaneous kind of guy when I go to these things. Most of the time I act very restrained and to myself, like at my job, depending on who's around. Because there's certain people that I work with that love horror movies too, and I've happened to turn them on to certain movies. But there are some people who either don't understand horror movies that I work with or just aren't fans, whether it be it's too intense for them or it's just not their definition of what entertainment is. And that's perfectly fine. Like, I have no problem with people who don't like horror movies. But I'm just one of those, if you respect my opinion, I'll respect yours kind of deal. It's just as simple as that. Yeah, because my dad, he doesn't like horror movies, but I don't hate him. and like, and he's gone to multiple shows with me, and it's like he enjoys a lot of these actors that I meet, not necessarily because he's seen much with them, but he just likes the way they treat the fans from what he witnessed, whether it be Sid Haig or Robert Englund, Kane Hodder, Bill Moseley, Tony Todd, or so many others. Rutger Hauer even. May he also rest in peace. But yeah, with the whole convention thing though, like two of the major people that I can always talk to, and I've told them this more times than they probably technically would care to hear, but I feel very comfortable with them, Joe Netter and Sarah French, that they're always one of the first people, within like the first 5 people that I try to see. They're always somewhere in that first 5 that I try to go see when I first arrive at the show. And it's cool to see that they created a bit of a family at the convention. Like, there was one person, I don't remember the specific one's name, that I saw a comment on the picture when they were announced, and what the person said was, you can't have a Rockin' Shock without Sarah and Joe, or it's not Rockin' Shock without Sarah and Joe. And to whoever that person was, and of course all the multiple other people I'm sure who said the same thing afterwards, I can't agree more. It really would not be the same without them. Like, I know there were a couple occasions where they thought about passing on going, but I'm glad that they decided to continue forward. Yeah, especially with Joe saying, I remember back in 2018, saying about how conventions have become so expensive now. And it's like tough to figure out like which ones to go to and like how many exactly to go to a year now because of like space to rent for the weekend. And I know exactly what he was talking about. I've been going to conventions now for 9 years. And in September of 2020, it'll be exactly 10 years. I used to go, like the first year of conventions alone, I went to 8 conventions. And it was amazing. Like I met all kinds of random different people like throughout that first year alone. I met John Carpenter. I met Tom Atkins. I met various Michael Myers actors. Kane Hodder was one of the first people I ever saw at a convention. I met a few people from Return of the Living Dead. I met the kids from the original Willy Wonka. I met Gary Busey, Ernest Borgnine. So many people. And hopefully I can cover them in other videos in the future in this series of convention memoirs. The major thing with conventions or the major thing that some people have said about conventions that put me off are the people that label certain guests as has-beens. And I do not agree with that at all. Like Kane Hodder, Tony Todd, Robert Englund, Bruce Campbell, Bill Moseley, Ernie Hudson, Tim Curry, Derek Mears. They're all still working. They may not be in a lot of high profile stuff sometimes, but they're still working. I mean, I can agree with calling William Shatner and certain various cast members of the original Star Trek show and some of the Next Generation cast, calling certain ones of those has-beens, but not with those other people that I mentioned. Like, there's this documentary that I love as well for different reasons called Best Worst Movie, which chronicles the fan base for Troll 2. And the main subject of the documentary is George Hardy, who was the dad. And he seems like a genuinely nice guy, but there is a sequence in there where it shows him and a couple of the other actors going to some conventions because they had successful fan screenings of Troll 2, and like one of them was in the UK and didn't go so well, sadly. It was like people mainly interested in seeing the blonde guy from Dukes of Hazzard or a Star Wars person or whoever else may have been there. and then it showed them at like one of the Texas horror conventions. I don't remember which one specifically, but if I remember reading correctly, I think this one sadly went under. And this was like my least favorite part of the documentary, but yet I can enjoy looking, sort of playing I Spy and being like, oh, there's Linnea Quigley, or oh, that's Gunnar Hansen, that's so and so. But I really just did not care for the way he acted in that scene, George Hardy, and saying like, yeah, I understand, like I said a little while ago, people that aren't fans of horror, but it's just, I felt that he was shoving his opinion down the throats of any audience that watches that documentary. And I just don't like seeing people, technically, at least how I look at it, badmouth some of my brethren. And I'm sure there are other people out there that are the same way. I saw this guy recently who did a review of Best Worst Movie, and he said the same thing. Yeah, I think really, though, what it was that George said that rubbed me the wrong way was when he said that it seems like those celebrity guests, their lives revolve around something that they did 20 or 30 years back. And I'm like, no. I know with certain guests, they do these conventions either as a way of giving back to the fans or because they really enjoy seeing the fans, like especially some regulars. And it's like, don't you have anything better to do? And I'm like, well, if that's not your thing, then it's not your thing. But don't be talking like, don't feel like you should have to speak for other people. But to briefly go back to the documentary, as a whole, I thought it was great. I actually wish it was a little bit longer, but there was still a good amount of information that was put together in a 1 hour and 46-minute documentary. And to officially close off this recap, I remember when I was looking for this, going to Michael's table to see if he was selling any copies, and kind of looking over at Kane Hodder's table to see if he was selling any copies. And I mentioned it to Michael, saying like how the last time I checked on Amazon, it was a little ridiculously overpriced, like $40 or something. And then he looked it up for me, and it actually was down to 20. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he mentioned that it was on Amazon Prime, which I have, and I was like, all right, I'll just look at it on there, and then I'll probably buy the DVD. And but of course, as you saw, I won this for a trivia question. But the thing that Michael said, though, to me, which I thought was hilarious, or what he reacted to, what something I said was very funny. Yeah, because I was looking at his books and being like, I do have those, and it was the Unmasked and then the Killer and I, which is like one chronicling the book tour that he went on with Kane Hodder. And I told him, I started that one, but I didn't finish it yet, the Unmasked, and he turned over and he was like, Kane, this kid just said that he didn't finish the book because it wasn't good enough for him. completely threw me under the bus. And Kane had this, like, I'm gonna kick your fucking ass kind of look on his face. And I was like, I just don't read much, okay? But, like I said in one part of the video, I definitely think I'm gonna get more into the groove soon, hopefully. And on that note, I think that this is a good time to end the recap video, because this is way longer than I expected it to be, but as you've seen with some of the other videos I've done, they can be pretty long, and also, I feel you guys should hear just as much information as possible. And thanks again for watching. I kind of imitating a little bit of Ken Forey shaking my hand. And he's like, stay strong, brother. Stay healthy, brother. I hope you have a good weekend, brother. He didn't say those exact words, but it's pretty close to what he said. But I think it was his way of saying thank you, though, for the sympathy card. But, yeah, for the last time, thank you for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you guys around. Later.